A man was buried inside his own house in the kitchen for a whole year and no one had even an inkling. In that same kitchen, his wife kept cooking for months. 2 children lived in the house. They were eating the very food prepared in that kitchen. No one noticed. Then one day, a new tenant moved into the house, a family. Food was prepared again in that same kitchen for months. That new tenant family ate that same food. Life went on as usual. Still, no one suspected that beneath the tiles of that kitchen a man was buried. A long time passed, and then one day a police constable received a tiny tip from a special informer. After that information, how the police reached that kitchen, exhumed the body, and what story the remains revealed here is the whole story. A man originally from Siwan in Bihar came to Gujarat in 2015 in search of work and livelihood. A man named Akbar Ansari, who lived in the Siwan area of Bihar, arrived in Ahmedabad, Gujarat in 2015 looking for a job. Before going to Ahmedabad, he took his wife along. While in Siwan, Akbar had fallen in love with a girl named Ruby. With both families' consent, they married. Akbar and Ruby were happy. After marriage responsibilities increased, so Akbar suggested they move to a new city to find work and start a new life. Ruby happily accompanied Akbar to Ahmedabad, and they built a small home there. Time passed, and they had 2 sons. Everything seemed fine in life. The year 2024 arrived around March-April 2024. One day, Akbar suddenly disappeared. In that neighborhood of Ahmedabad, they had lived for many years and knew the neighbors. There were friendships and acquaintances. Neighbors often exchanged greetings and asked about each other. When Akbar stopped showing up for days, neither morning nor evening, when he used to go to work and people would see him and say hello. Some neighbors asked Ruby where he was. Ruby said he had got a good job and had gone to Dubai. The neighbors were surprised but glad that he had found good work. Many neighbors asked Ruby and she gave the same answer. So everyone came to believe Akbar had gone to Dubai. There was nothing suspicious about that. Many people go abroad for work. Time passed. After a couple of months, the house where Akbar and Ruby had lived was locked up. The neighbors were surprised. One day Ruby came to collect some belongings and the neighbors asked where she was going. She said that since Akbar had gone to Dubai for work, she thought it best to move back to her home with the children. That explanation sounded genuine. The house was empty. 2 months passed and then a new family moved in as tenants. The neighbors learned that Ruby had rented the house out. The new family, husband, wife, children, came and lived there. Time passed. More than a year went by. Ruby didn't come by, and nothing else happened. After a few months, the tenant who had moved in found another job elsewhere and vacated the house. Once again, the house was locked up and left vacant. Time moved on. Then, in June-July this year, one day an Ahmedabad constable was passing through that area when an informer approached him. The informer said, "Sir, I'll tell you something. There used to live a man in that neighborhood named Akbar, and he's been missing for about a year to a year and a quarter. As far as I know, he's not alive anymore. He has been murdered." When the policeman heard this, he said, "There are a lot of missing person stories. Give me proof." The informer replied that someone else had told him and he wouldn't reveal that person's name, but he did give Akbar's name and address and asked the police to investigate quietly. He insisted his information was true. That informer had a reputation for being reliable. A good police officer trusts a dependable informer. The constable reported to his senior officers and said that the informer always proved right. The senior officers advised him not to dismiss the tip and to investigate discreetly. They told him to start by questioning people in the neighborhood. They would know if anyone had seen Akbar in the last year or so. So the constable went to the area and found the house with the padlock. Neighbors told him that about a year and a quarter earlier, Akbar had gone to Dubai for work. They said Ruby had told them so, and later Ruby left too, and a tenant lived there and then left. The house had been locked up for some months. Now, the police began investigating Akbar's absence. They went to his workplace and found that Akbar had stopped coming to work without informing anyone. That seemed odd to the constable because if someone had genuinely gotten a job in Dubai, they would generally give notice. Akbar's work record was good. Colleagues praised him as capable, honest, and hardworking. So how could he simply stop coming? The constable probed thoroughly. The record was clean. He returned to the neighborhood to question people again. Everyone said Akbar was a friendly, good man, and then one day he simply vanished. Usually people moving to Dubai inform relatives and neighbors. They don't just disappear without a trace. The constable then obtained Akbar's phone number and began contacting people in Siwan as well. In Siwan, they said Ruby had told them Akbar had gone to Dubai, but no one had actually been contacted by Akbar. The constable compiled all this and reported back to his seniors, saying the facts were creating suspicion. Akbar had left abruptly. There was no contact since June-July 2024, and his mobile had been switched off continuously from then on. Neighbors, relatives, colleagues, none of them had heard from him in the past year plus. Even Akbar's social media showed no sign of activity. Now the police began to think the informer might be right. A living person doesn't vanish into silence like that without leaving some trace. The informer had also said Akbar was likely killed. The police had no direct leads. Ruby was missing, the children's whereabouts were unknown, and neighbors knew nothing. But the team concluded Akbar was dead, and where could his body be? The police remembered some crime movies and shows that sometimes give investigators ideas. One of the officers recalled a film where a body was buried inside a police station, a notion that seemed far-fetched but stuck in their minds. In this neighborhood, no one had seen any suspicious activity, no one carrying suitcases or bags at odd hours. No one noticed anything unusual outside the house. Then one officer noticed something about the kitchen tiles. A couple of tiles looked oddly placed, uneven, as if fitted clumsily, not like work done by a professional tiler. That raised a red flag. Could someone have buried a body beneath the kitchen tiles? The police applied to the court to open the house, and the court granted permission. A magistrate accompanied the police team and laborers. On the last Tuesday, they reached the house in that Ahmedabad neighborhood. The door was opened and the house searched. Months of dust and no signs of recent activity were visible. They searched each room thoroughly. Beds were moved, floors and walls checked, the water tank inspected. Nothing turned up. Finally, they reached the kitchen. At first glance, the kitchen looked normal, but the tiles on the floor appeared uneven, one or two like they had been broken or poorly fitted. When the officer saw that, he thought, how could someone bury a body in the kitchen? Yet Akbar had been missing for over a year with no leads. Since they had court permission, they ordered the tiles lifted and excavation commenced. After some digging, a few bones became visible. Carefully, they continued digging and found small bone fragments. Eventually, they recovered all the human skeletal remains from beneath the kitchen. The remains were bundled and taken into police custody and sent to the government hospital mortuary for forensic examination. So human skeletal remains were found in Akbar's kitchen. The informer had been right. But this was only half the story. If those were Akbar's bones, who could have killed him right there in his own house and buried him under the kitchen floor? The line of investigation changed. Police began fresh, focused questioning in the neighborhood. They learned a new story. A man named Imran Vagola lived next to Ruby and was close friends with Akbar. Over time, Imran and Ruby developed an affair. Neighbors had seen them visiting each other often. Gradually, rumors reached Akbar. One day, Akbar caught Imran coming out of his house and confronted Ruby, warning her that they had 2 children, and this path was wrong. Ruby didn't stop the relationship. Imran and Ruby's liaison continued despite Akbar's warnings. Eventually, Ruby told Imran, "How long can this go on? I'm in a new city, far from my family. If Akbar were to disappear, if he were out of the way, no one would know." Imran agreed. Imran then told 2 friends, Rahim and Masin, about the plan. Akbar had to be killed. In 2024, the 3 men came to Ruby's house one night. Akbar was at home. Seeing them, Akbar became angry, but before he could react, they attacked him and strangled him. He became helpless before 3 attackers and soon died. After he died, the 3 used a sharp weapon to cut his throat while Ruby was present. Then they faced the problem of disposing of the body, worried about CCTV and being seen carrying a bag or suitcase by neighbors at night. One of them recalled the film Drishyam and suggested burying the body inside the house to avoid the risk of moving it. Ruby agreed. They chose the kitchen, a place rarely visited by outsiders and where guests usually Dan, Tigo, and the group removed tiles, dug a pit, dismembered the body into small pieces, placed the parts in the pit, refilled it with soil, and then came back the next day with cement and sand to relay the tiles. After doing this, they left. Ruby then continued to live in the house with her two small children. For many months, she stood over those very tiles, cooking and eating as if nothing had happened beneath her feet. She openly met Imran, but lurking fear remained that one day the buried body might be discovered. So eventually, on Imran's suggestion, she moved to another house. She later rented the house out. At some point, one of Imran's two friends, Rahim or Masin, reportedly revealed the murder to someone. That informer then told the constable, and the entire truth came out. After that, the police first arrested Imran Vagola on a Tuesday, and then Ruby, Rahim and Masin were also arrested. Imran confessed and gave a full account of the crime, the same story IV just related. All those arrested are in police custody and being interrogated. The skeletal remains recovered from the kitchen have been sent for forensic testing and results are expected. Imagine a missing person for a year and a quarter, buried in his own home and no one realizing it. But a small tip from an informer solved the whole case. Often, large cases are cracked because of small pieces of information. That was today's story. Before I end the story, let me continue the regular segment. Today is Kamlesh Chowdhury's birthday. Happy birthday, Kamlesh ji.